It's on. This is on. All right. Dear Lord, please don't kill me. It's not going to be possible if I don't have a key. Pull that out of my ass. My nose itches. No. Alright. And we're off. I'm fucking deaf already. In 2 feet, I'm deaf. Alright, hopefully you can hear me. Still in the testing phase. I got a lot of gear and this thing makes a lot of racket, so hopefully this works. Hey, there's Eric Clapton's house. Anyway, the point of this is I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'll ride the H2R around, which I think is nothing else should be entertaining until I get killed on it, which is probably more likely than not. Fingers crossed I last for a little while, because I hate to give riding this thing up. It is fantastic. Fucking vents. All my vents are open. Okay. Hey everybody, this is not your good buddy 650 Ebe. For many reasons, it should become obvious. One, I'm 2 feet shorter than he is, and there's this. Anyway, the reason I wanted to make this video real quick, it's not going to be very long. Hopefully it'll be informative. Don't pull out in front of me, lady. The reason I wanted to make this very quickly was just to show you that it's completely unnecessary to add a Autoblip downshifter to anything. You don't need it for this, you don't need it for a Harley, you don't need it for a shaft drive Suzuki. It works on just about everything made in the last 50 or 60 years. All it requires is a little bit of practice. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a nerd, I like technology, and all the nerd stuff is great. I like it. The Kawasaki quick shifter on this thing is lightning fast, and if I were racing somebody, I would probably need it just to shave a few tenths off. But that said, there's a lot of joy in doing it yourself. Plus, once you've learned how to do it, your brain just kind of does it automatically, and it's kind of like driving an automatic, only your hands and feet are working the controls. But you don't need the clutch. I'm never going to I'll go all the way up and down through the gears, and I'm not going to touch the clutch. There's one. All of that did by myself. I didn't need a single piece of electronics, didn't have to spend a dime. All I had to do was practice for 5 minutes. So easy, a baby could do it. Yay, that's so much fun. I'm glad I don't have a computer doing it for me. Ugh, crappy roads. All by myself. No computers. All by myself. See this is my clutch hand. Not touching it, don't need it. In and out of first, obviously, is where it's at, but other than that, it's unnecessary. I've gotten into many an argument and made many an enemy over the fact that it is impossible to clutchless downshift an H2 or H2R. Anyway, as you can see, it is very easy. You just Give it a little blip on the right, and see how smooth that is? Anyway, just a modicum of practice. Very easy to learn. No sweat. The point being is you don't have to spend a bunch of money or engineer a fucking ECU to Autoblip, downshift. I mean, Jesus, the amount of time wasted engineering, no offense, Don Gould, that kind of shit is ridiculous. It's like the difference between learning to play guitar or playing Guitar Hero. Forgot I've got flash to pass on this thing. Playing Guitar Hero is fine, but it only works in your living room. If you're gonna go out and play guitar in front of people, if you show up with a Guitar Hero, you look kind of like a dumbass. I think the same kind of goes for this stuff. Again, electronics are fun, but it's much more fun to do that myself than have a computer do it. Plus, if I'm pissed off, I can do it kind of angry. Listen. See how angry I sounded right there? Yeah, that's right. But I'm not angry right now. I'm having a blast. This bike is amazing. It's like being strapped to the nose of the space shuttle drunk. I don't know quite how to describe it. I feel sometimes when I'm trying, people ask me, you know, what's it like to ride the H2R? I feel like it's difficult to find a common vernacular to describe, like, you know, do you know what it's like to fight Mike Tyson? Probably not. So I don't know how somebody who's fought Mike Tyson would explain that to me. And it's kind of like this thing. I have no idea. Like even to somebody who's ridden an H2, and I had the H2 all last year, and don't get me wrong, it's a mind-bending space warp, but this thing is something else entirely. And everybody's got this One Bike magazine. It had a bad dyno. It was 247 horsepower, and that's the number everybody repeats, because that's the bullshit that makes them feel good about the H2 being able to tune it to 247 horsepower. The problem with it is, I don't know how much of this I want to get into. It's a longer discussion for another day. But the reason it dynoed down at 247 horsepower was a number of things. But we found this out the other day. If you accidentally, if you turn the Kawasaki traction control off and then dyno it, it stays off. But if you cycle the power and then do it again, the bike automatically reverts to traction control mode 1 just to save your ass. It's not going to let you start and stop it again and have it accidentally pop up with the traction control off. So anyway, God bless Kawasaki for saving my ass. But anyway, if you do that, and it's common to cycle the bike and heat cycle or whatever to try to get it to cool down, you'll end up dynoing it accidentally with the traction control on. The other thing was temperatures. This thing's got the launch control mode between 106, I think it's, 106 and 140 degrees or whatever. It'll let you do it as many times as you want. Between 100 and, I don't know the number, don't quote me on it, I'll have to post it somewhere else. But anyway, there's certain ranges where it limits your ability to accelerate at full speed because it's trying to protect itself from detonation, which is brilliant. Again, thank you Kawasaki for doing that. But if you don't know what you're doing, you'll end up with a really shitty dyno. So anyway, the long and short of it is after consulting with many people, several professionals, one person at Kawasaki, apparently the way to dyno the H2R is to roll it up on the dyno, stone cold, start it up, run through the gears a couple times just to get the oil moving and get everything nice and lubricated. And as soon as you see a temperature pop up on that thing, it'll be what it pops up like 102 degrees first. Get it in 6th gear and make your run. And that you basically get one shot at it, because after that first run, this thing puts out so much heat, it's at 200 degrees by the time you get to the top of the rev range, which is it's pretty awesome. It's very, very loud, and there's lots of fire, and it draws crowds. It's brilliant. But sorry, I had a brain fart there. I daydreaming. Anyway, you basically get one shot at it. You might get two, but the chances of you getting the temperature back down low enough to let it give you full power again is you're gonna waste a lot of time to dyno. So you get one shot at it and do it. The other thing is a lot of dyno operators want to dyno it in 5th gear, which for a naturally aspirated bike, maybe a turbo, I don't know, that's okay. But this thing, everyone I spoke to, it needs to be in 6th. That's where it makes all of its power. On the, I say it makes all of its power. It makes power all over the fucking place. It's 2 grand. It's a fucking axe murderer. It will rip your face off everywhere. But if you're gonna dyno one, do it cold. You get one shot at it, and do it in 6th gear. And also, don't use shitty gas. Speaking of gas, again, another conversation for another day. But fucking ethanol. Oh my god. I had no idea what ethanol was until I got into the manual on this thing and it said, do not use ethanol. Okay, now I won't use ethanol. So you start looking, and guess what? You can't buy gas without fucking ethanol. Brilliant. Well, you can, but it's not easy. The way I'm buying gas now is I have to go to a boat dock because they won't sell fuel with ethanol in it for boats, because ethanol is horseshit. Like I said, it's a long conversation, but basically, ethanol is Everclear. It's fucking corn that's been distilled into an alcohol that kind of burns and kind of doesn't. It takes a lot of ethanol to get it to go bang. And because it's slower to go bang, they can add it to cheap gas and technically raise the octane level, which basically allows the federal government and the farms they stole from nice old folks out here. Speaking of corn, there's a bunch. Sorry, corn, I didn't mean to insult you as I was driving past you. But basically, they get to water down gasoline with ethanol. See, they used to water down gas with water, but it would separate, and you know, you'd get to the bottom of the tank, and you'd end up with a car that didn't run very well. So what they started doing was using ethanol. Ethanol will mix with fuel, but it also absorbs water. So what happens is, if you leave ethanol in your car, it absorbs a bunch of water and does a shitload of damage to everything if you leave it set. It fucks carburetors. There were Ducatis that had gas tanks that were expanding. They were polymer, I guess, and they were having to replace... On the 1098, I'm not talking about like old bikes, I'm talking about recently. But they were having to replace Ducati gas tanks because the ethanol was destroying the systems. I've had a DeLorean that I had to replace every single part in the fuel system because of ethanol. Just had some carburetors on an old cruiser, started leaking. It basically ate out the seals and turned everything to varnish. Ethanol did that. So after a long discussion with Kawasaki about ethanol, they could tell me basically nothing. They couldn't even recommend its fuel type. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm going down to the boat docks, buying 90 octane. Oh, forgot to turn on my headlight. Whoops. And then using race gas additive to get me up to 95 Ronman. So since I've done that, I haven't had any knocking, pinging, overheating. Everything's great. As you can see, it's running at 152 degrees. I've been lollygagging. If I give it the beans, it'll drop down to 141. But I digress. The point of this video was the clutch loosen up and downshifting. Sorry for going off on a tangent. Actually, as you've probably been watching me, I haven't used the clutch but to stop and to start, and that's the way it should be. It's easier on everybody, plus it saves your clutches. In 20 some odd years of riding, I've only replaced the clutch never. Seriously, you know, 10, 12,000 miles a year. I mean, I've never had to replace the clutch. I did have to pull one out one time and soak it because the bike had set for a while and they'd gotten dry. I did have to pull it out and re-soak a set, but other than that,